I see these memes, 3 words that you would say to your younger self. I know exactly what my
Invest
3
in
words
Apple,
are.
No.
That is not the 3 words. But yeah, I Welcome to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. I'm Richard.
Noah.
And we have an untapped subject matter for this week's episode of Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches.
How have we never talked about X-Men on this channel? We have an entire playlist of Marvel videos, and
and we've never touched X-Men.
And we've never touched X-Men, at all.
And I think I know why. I think I know part of the reason why. One is there's just a whole bunch of stuff competing for our attention.
Yeah.
And putting together a list. And the other thing is, I realized in reviewing Days of Future Past that I have X-Men burnout.
Yeah?
I have complete X-Men burnout.
Do you have X-Men burnout, or do you have Wolverine burnout?
I have X-Men burnout.
Okay, good.
And I'll tell you why. So, Logan, his swan song, incredible movie.
Was amazing.
Incredible movie.
Hands down, the best X-Men movie ever made.
Probably.
And it's not even a true. I mean, it's kind of an X-Men movie. Professor X is in there, but best in that franchise.
You know what?
100%.
It was so out of the norm for an X-Men movie.
Yeah, it was so out of the norm for a superhero movie.
Yes. And the actress they hired to play Logan's daughter was incredible. She was a riot.
Fantastic.
Yes.
But Days of Future Past, the perfect ending that never was. We haven't mentioned that we were talking about that, but it's going to be the video title, and
the ending, the perfect ending that never was.
No, we haven't mentioned that we're talking about Days of Future Past today. I don't think.
Yeah. Oh, I just referred to it. So he wanted to talk about Days of Future Past.
Yeah. Apparently, you wanted to talk about Logan.
No. This is, you know how it is. We sit down, we talk, things come to mind,
right.
We just say them, and that's why. The fact that we've just hit 90 subscribers, the fact that we have people who are tuning in when this conversation is just a gigantic squirrel moment, it never ceases to amaze me that you're tuning in, and thank you.
Thank you.
So what did you?
Okay, well, Days of Future Past, I remember being really excited for this one because Days of Future Past is kind of a cool comic storyline. It's a alternate universe comic storyline, and it's very similar to the movie in several ways. They send someone back in time to prevent the Sentinels from uprising and wiping out mutant kind. Mutant kind is how they put it in the movies. From wiping out mutant kind. And I remember
basically somebody perfected the T-800.
Yeah, pretty much. Didn't we make this joke in the Terminator video?
I don't know if we did or not. But
how we compare everything else to Terminator? If there's AI involved?
Well, we might, but I was just thinking, how would John Connor have fought this bad boy? That was what kept rolling through my mind,
And the Sentinels are a classic X-Men villain. They're usually big robots that are very powerful and hard for the X-Men to take down. And fun fact, there's actually in, I think it's the third X-Men movie, X-Men The Last Stand. The Last Stand that never was. They actually start the movie out in a fight scene in the hologram chamber on the holodeck essentially, and they're fighting a Sentinel because Wolverine gets chucked in there and cuts off the head and it flies back. That's in X-Men The Last Stand. It's the very opening sequence. I'll show you later.
Did I see it? I'm trying to remember if I've seen it.
It's the one where Jean Grey dies. Oh, which one where Jean Grey dies? The one where Jean Grey dies.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
With X-Men, you had the first movie, I think, is undercredited with helping with this superhero movie madness that we have nowadays. Like when we think of 90s and early 2000s superhero movies, some people will think of Blade, because honestly Blade was like the first big successful Marvel movie, and it's pretty good. The Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy was pretty good. X-Men did also come out in the early 2000s, and like I've seen VHS tapes of the original X-Men at thrift stores. That's what we're talking about. How long ago. They, and it was Fox showing that they could actually do a team movie because they failed with Fantastic Four. So, all 3 times. So,
that breaks X-Men, my heart. Fantastic Four, growing up as a kid, my all-time favorite comic book, superheroes, and why is it that they suck on the big screen?
I don't know what it is about them. They just don't work.
Well, I don't think the first 2 movies were as bad as everybody else did. But
they're not.
Maybe that's just my bias.
They're not the worst thing ever, but
I'll say that Chris Evans is far better as Captain America than he was
as Human Torch.
Torch.
But X-Men, I'm trying to wrangle it in.
Yeah, sorry.
The ADD person's trying to wrangle it in. We got a problem. The first X-Men movie, I remember being pretty decent, fun, goofy superhero romp with a bit of a darker edge to it to fit into that, like, 2000s grit vibe that everyone was going for.
Okay.
And then X-Men 2, I remember being really good because essentially it was Wolverine, not X-Men. It was just a Wolverine movie. Which usually the best X-Men movies are Wolverine movies, let's be honest. And then the third one really kind of fell off before they decided to fall off even further with X-Men Origins Wolverine. And then they decided to reboot with First Class. So Days of Future Past was the second movie in that reboot line. So where you have First Class recasting Professor X and Magneto and showing them in their younger days.
Right.
While still maintaining that continuity of the original X-Men movies. Like, this First Class was supposed to take place before all the original X-Men movies and X-Men Origins Wolverine, roughly, right? Like, okay. So that's super cool. One thing I'm going to credit Fox with doing is keeping continuity up until this movie.
Well, and the interesting thing about that, when they rebooted it and they showed all those younger people, it gave me a chance to sit back and take a look at the costumes and realize we really looked bad back then. We had no style.
Yeah.
And I had no control over it because my mom dressed me in that stuff.
I did. I was an extra on a 60s movie a few months ago. Yeah, those outfits were horrible.
Yeah. So the music was good.
Yes. So you get First Class in like the 60s around the Cuban Missile Crisis. And then you get, I believe, the 70s, end of the Vietnam War, for Days of Future Past,
right?
Where, we see the post-apocalyptic future with all the Sentinels, and they're coming in and wiping out all the mutants. You've got these like last few holdouts of mutants, which really makes you wonder how so many of them survived up until this point. If these things can constantly adapt. Like, that was one of the roughest cold openings to a movie to watch, because you literally just see a group of X-Men and mutants just getting massacred by these Sentinels. And it just sets that groundwork immediately that these things are stupid powerful. And then they're like, oh, wait, but we can time travel and fix this.
Mm-hmm.
And they warn themselves like a few days or a few weeks in advance in their hideout. Which does bring up a funny point of that kind of screws them over in the experience department, doesn't it? Like, they're not learning from these battles. It's like every time they have to fight and wait to be rescued in the past by I think that was Bishop.
In fact, they said that Logan would be the only person who remembered his original storyline.
No. I'm talking about in the future at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. Well, no, I understand that, but I mean, but your point about not learning when they save everybody and that whole timeline is different.
Is erased,
that means they've all lost a lifetime of battle experience.
Yeah.
Interesting thought.
Yeah. Well, I thought this movie did a great job of bringing together this new generation cast and the old generation cast because Patrick Stewart as Professor X has always been fun to watch.
Yes.
He's always been a good Professor X.
Yes.
James McAvoy he did a good job as a young Professor X, in my opinion, at least. Especially in First Class, he was, more inexperienced, trying to, get a group of people together and work together. And you see him struggle and learn to grow with that. And now we get in Days of Future Past. The Vietnam War has drafted a lot of his students.
Yeah.
A lot of people are leaving. He's got nothing, and Raven left him. Mystique left him, and he is constantly drunk and shooting himself up just with a drug that helps him walk instead of heroin. It's real. We were all thinking when he starts tying the belt.
Seeing Professor X as a drug addict is because he's clearly self-medicating.
Yeah.
Using this drug. But you can only escape. You can only run and escape for so long. Mm-hmm. You either kill yourself or you change your behavior and face your demons. He obviously chose the latter.
Yeah. Eventually he does. And I loved this movie with Hugh Jackman obviously taking the helm and carrying the entire weight on his shoulders again, like he does. His Wolverine is amazing, but this movie was just highly entertaining. I really enjoyed Peter Dinklage in it.
Peter Dinklage, has he had a bad role? If he has, I haven't seen it.
I have no idea.
He's a phenomenal actor, and it was fun seeing him.
You got Jennifer Lawrence playing Mystique, and she's delivering a good performance. And this was kind of Mystique's movie. A little bit. Like, First Class had a lot of emphasis on her, but also this movie is kind of about Mystique as the MacGuffin. Save Mystique, save the world.
Okay.
She's kind of a side character, but she's like the goal that everyone's chasing, because obviously Logan knows that she's the reason that they're all about to die, because they harvest her cells and use that in the Sentinels. And then you got Magneto trying to sway her to kill them and mess with them.
Of all the characters in the X-Men universe, I think I enjoy Magneto the most.
Yeah.
Just because of his origin, the concentration, the concentration camp, sequence, and then everything that he has gone through, weaving, trying to do the right thing, doing the wrong thing, trying to come back. His friendship with Charles Xavier is clearly has a huge impact on him. Mm-hmm. And while they do go their separate ways for a while, obviously they come back together.
Yeah.
He's truly an interesting character.
Yeah, and I love you get this dichotomy between Ian McKellen's old Magneto and Michael Fassbender's young Magneto. And Magneto is just ripping his younger self a new one. In the future,
what are the Sentinels made of?
Non-magnetic. In the past, they were made of like a space age polymer. Like
that's right.
Polymer,
they did say that.
He has to like use railroad ties and make wires inside them to control them.
He did say that. Okay.
I don't know what they're made out of in the future, but probably some non-magnetic material.
Just because he exists.
Just because he exists, in that. It's always the biggest issue when you're fighting Magneto. Is like you can't have Colossus fight him. You can't have Wolverine fight him. You shouldn't fly at him with the freaking plane.
Right.
It's like, literally all the Avengers would get wiped out by Magneto. Except like Hulk.
Magneto versus Vader.
Vader dies.
The only two
just that.
The only two who can stop a ship with their hand. Rey fails. Who else fails? Who tries to stop a ship?
Well, Ahsoka lets it go. Ahsoka lets him go.
You think she could have pulled it down?
Yeah, I think so. We're back on Star Wars. We just recorded Maul, by the way.
That's just a thought that came to mind. The whole don't fly a plane at him. That's what made me think of that.
Yeah.
That it's also one of the ways that it's one of the ways that when my mind goes off like that. The movie itself. There's not a lot that engaged me. There wasn't the first time, and I had said that I have X-Men fatigue.
Yeah,
and it's like, another movie where a group of people with amazing powers are going to face an enemy that's going to almost completely annihilate them, and at the very last minute, they're going to figure out a way of making it work, and they're all going to survive. Why am I watching this?
Well,
that was my thought. Yeah. That was my thought going into it. So so what I have to do when I'm watching a movie like that is I have to find other things that hold my attention.
Okay.
And one of the things that held my attention was the breakout of Magneto from prison.
Everyone's favorite scene in this movie.
The kitchen sequence. Not because of what... Quicksilver, thank you. Not because of what Quicksilver does, but because of the music. That they put. because I heard Time in the Bottle start, and then I realized, that is just hysterical. That is absolutely fantastic, and perfectly appropriate for the time. Yeah. That the movie was in. It really was really good. The suggestion that Kennedy was a mutant is fantastic.
Yeah.
I just, I was thoroughly entertained by that one right there. I love how they were
like, curving bullet. Who else do you know that can do that?
Exactly.
And it's like, well, I was trying to save him. He was one of us.
And once they they plant that, I'm watching the battle between Raven as she's trying to escape and Magneto's trying to catch her, and she's been shot and she drops the blood on the ground and a whole bit. Makes the Zapruder film look like child's play. I mean, how many decades have been spent looking at, reviewing, discussing, and analyzing the Zapruder film, and you've got this one. Oh, the conspiracy theorists just must, 40, 50 years of going nuts. Who's the blue chick? And that's what I was thinking when I watched the movie.
That's
okay.
Fair,
I mean, so you and I had two totally and completely different takes on this movie,
great. And that's great.
Yeah. But I'm going to sidetrack you from your thoughts if I keep going because I have a few more of these. But
I'll tell you just a couple quick things, and then the big thing that I liked about this film. So a couple quick things. First, I loved seeing the original cast, both in the Apocalypse era, where this the bad future and the good future. The original actor to play Beast, can't remember his name.
Kelsey Grammer.
Love him as Beast. You have seen him because he was in the third. You have seen the third movie because he was in the third movie. Yeah.
See,
absolutely loved him as Beast.
I liked the younger Beast primarily because they gave him more to do.
Well, yeah.
He was more interesting.
Yeah, they wasted Kelsey Grammer, but he played that role so well. So
yes,
to see him get that nod and to see that he got in full prosthetic for a 2-second cameo was fantastic. Halle Berry.
Yep.
Because I'm trying not to confuse her with the Little Mermaid, the new Little Mermaid. Always loved her as Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Always loved her as Storm. She was fantastic. And then just seeing Iceman again, that was pretty cool. You get to see Rogue and Colossus and Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat. It's really cool to see that.
Nice seeing the Iceman grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and be a competent
X-Men.
Really cool.
Not a kid trying to figure his way.
Watching them all die is, you're watching it and it's like, oh, that's kind of sad. Oh well, they're gonna get saved. We know they're gonna get saved because it's a movie.
Well, yeah,
they're all gonna get saved eventually. But I'll tell you the big thing that I really liked, because Charles in the past was the heart of this film. Because you're trying to get Charles on board with everything, and they're trying to get Charles to the point where he can be effective again, where he can be a leader, he can come up with a plan, he can intervene when necessary. And the best scene, in my opinion, is when Logan's like, read my mind. He sees, or sorry, where is it? He sees his future self.
Right.
And talks with him. And seeing McAvoy and Stewart as the same character, and Stewart he's being a guiding figure to himself. And who better than himself?
Well, how many, you wouldn't know this, you won't know this, God willing you will, a moment when you think to yourself, if I could go back in time and talk to myself, what would I say? And I see these memes, 3 words that you would say to your younger self. I know exactly what my 3 words
in Apple,
are. No. That was not the 3 words, but yeah, invest in Apple. So, there are 2 things in this movie that caught my attention. These were the make it worth watching moments of the movie. Right. One, Charles Xavier saying that just because someone stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean that they're lost forever.
Yep. You know what? Only thing I think could have made that scene potentially better.
What?
Hear me out on this.
Okay.
Is if it wasn't Charles talking to himself, if it was Magneto. Imagine Ian McKellen as that reformed Magneto, telling young Magneto, or telling young Charles, you were right, and I'm sorry. And I can't account for my past self.
Yes.
But I can apologize now.
Yes.
For everything I put you through. I think that's the only thing. Because we did kind of get that. He said, why did we spend so many years fighting each other, Charles?
It would have been so much better. That's a fantastic rewrite there.
I think that is really the only thing I would have changed about this movie is if future Charles had said, I have someone here who wants to meet you to his past self, and have Ian McKellen step in.
Yep.
That would have been amazing, I think. But that scene is still great to see Charles guiding his younger self.
Yes, it is. That is an excellent piece. Now it's in that scene, the quote that I'm about to read, and clearly not the monumental levels. My life hasn't had the monumental levels of pain that they have.
No,
right? I've had my share, but it's not the emotional pain that I'm finding difficult to deal with anymore in life. It's the physical pain as I age. Right? About 2 weeks ago, it was an hour on a Tuesday morning before I could walk normally. Karate was that hard the night before. And, it didn't used to be that way. I used to just spring out of bed and go, Pain will make you stronger if you allow yourself to feel it, embrace it. It will make you more powerful than you ever imagined. It's the greatest gift we have. Now, there's a lot of people who would argue with that statement. Is pain the greatest gift that we have? However, he continues to say, to bear their pain without breaking, it comes from the most human part of us, hope. Now, there comes a point in time where dealing with daily pain just becomes a part of who you are. And the question is, can you bear it with grace, or do you become an absolute beast to those people who are around you, right? Interestingly enough, it's the emotional pain that turns you into a beast right away. And then eventually, if you learn how to heal from it, you carry it with grace for the rest of your days. It's kind of a
really good quote.
It is, and I tell you what, this movie was worth watching. Now, I don't know who wrote that. I don't know if it was one writer. I don't know if it was a team of writers. But they got to that point, and whoever penned those words, that was absolutely fantastic.
It was incredible.
That is my, okay, this was worth watching moment, was listening to that quote. Mm-hmm. So, that kind of relieved the X-Men fatigue. It all, I think I said this last episode, it all comes down to the writing.
Yep.
It's either well written or it's not.
Yep. And then you get this ending that's wraps everything up in a nice little bow. Even Jean Grey is still alive. You got Cyclops. You got everyone. All the manor is back to normal. The school is back to being the way it's supposed to be. And then he walks in, and Wolverine's like talking or like walking into Charles's office, and Charles is like, "Don't you have a history lesson to go teach?" He's like, "I might need some help with that." What do you mean? What do you mean? Everything after 1975? And he's like, "Welcome back."
Yes.
I was like, that was a fantastic way to end this.
Yes, it was.
A fantastic way to end this.
Yes, it was.
And then they had to go and mess it up!
With?
Well, they continued the reboots to fill in the gap between the where they left off in the past and that point. They wanted to do a fresh reboot with this new cast, so they did X-Men Age of Apocalypse. Not good. And then they did what was it?
I didn't see
Phoenix.
Age of Apocalypse. Oh, that one just bombed, didn't it?
That one just
bombed horribly.
Horrible. And yeah, it was, it was Fox trying to keep rights on the X-Men films from Marvel.
Oh, okay.
And they the best movies to come after that was obviously Logan.
Yeah, Logan was fantastic.
And Logan was absolutely amazing.
So this is one of the ones that you wanted to cover. You said that it's the ending that wasn't
the perfect ending that never was
because they kept making movies.
Yes.
Okay.
And they wrapped everything up. They wrapped up the original X-Men live action storyline, and and then they tied it in with the younger reboot. The younger cast reboot.
Right.
And they did it in a way that was entertaining. It was fun. I enjoyed this movie. And, it's got a little bit of heart to it at the end.
Yep.
And you get a great finale. And it should have been the end of that X-Men storyline. The only other X-Men movies that should have been made were obviously Logan, because it was fantastic, and Deadpool. So, which... Hugh Jackman is coming out of retirement for Deadpool 3, so
I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to that too. But yep, Days of Future Past, the perfect ending that never was.
What are your thoughts on Days of Future Past, or the X-Men in general, or anything that we've talked about here on this particular topic?
I just realized, I'm seeing out of the corner of my eye, I had Marvel stuff to put up here. It's still Star Wars stuff.
Totally forgot. We went from Maul to... Well, hey, we worked in the whole, Vader versus Magneto thing.
Yeah, Vader dies instantly.
Wouldn't that have been cool to see? You! There's now balance in the Force.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Pork Chop, Rice, and Peaches. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below.
Picking them up by the head and just squeezing the head. Just popping them like a zit. Just that.
That's it.
A Darth. Red pus shooting at it.
Oh! What happened to PG-13, man? We'll see you next time.
I didn't.
I didn't either. It looked really bad.
I did.
It was bad.
Yeah. No, I
Did you make it through that entire beer?
I get some really, really good entertaining one-liners when I do that.
Yes, I know you do.
I know, and I got one right here at the end. So